there's a tier system to trophies, right? So probably top is the Champions League, right? That's like the Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl or whatever. That's the best team in Europe every year, right? So that's the number one. Next down, if you don't include the other European trophies, is the Premier League, because it's the team that's been it's the hardest league in the world, and it's the team that's been the most consistent.
You mean I've been following minor league soccer this whole time? My God, that's garbage.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another Watch More Football. I'd like to say a very special Watch More Football this week. Certainly, as
once
far as
in a
I'm
generation,
concerned.
this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a once in a generation podcast show today, folks.
Several generations.
But we will get to that. First of all, you are watching us in Genreverse Sports, so check out all our back catalogue on there. If you like the show, liking and subscribe would really help us out. Plus, any comments, let us know what you like and what you don't like. While you're on there, if you also give a shout or a look over, I should say, towards our Genreverse YouTube channel, which is our main YouTube channel. Loads of anime content on there, but entertainment, reactions, news, all that sort of stuff. And you will find similar content to that in a written format on lrmonline.com. I'm one of the writers on there, Cam Clark. And I'm with always at the moment Ryan, since the other guys are not available at the moment. It is me and Ryan holding the fort. I'm sure Mick would have loved to have been on if he could this week, but we'll see how we go.
He's probably still on the sesh, isn't he?
But he may well be.
Yeah.
We don't know. Or he's at darts again. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we've also got producer Kel here as well, and he's no idea what the hell we're on about or why this is such a big event or anything like that. It's just some trophy that happened somewhere.
You guys have so many trophies. There's a trophy for every. It's kind of like bowl games for college. So I don't know if it really matters.
Yeah. I mean, the reason it matters is that there are so many trophies, and Newcastle have found a way to not win any of them for 70 years.
I mean, that's kind of it. Not quite 70 years,
Ryan.
because we did win a European trophy in 1969. But domestic, actually,
and
English
we all remember
trophies,
that fondly.
We haven't won since the 50s. Yeah, but it's like, see if that had been 74, we had won that European title, people would have remembered it more. It's something like, see, because it was called the Fairs Cup and they hadn't called it the UEFA Cup yet or anything like that, people dismiss it as even more Mickey Mouse than the UEFA Cup was. A UEFA Cup's a good. You've won it. It's a good trophy to win. Anyway, before we get to all that, though, I mean, our main focus of the show this week will be that Newcastle United did win their first domestic trophy, first trophy of any kind in a long, long time this weekend. We didn't think it was going to happen. If you watched last week's show, you'll have seen me almost resigned to. I'd almost talked myself into the fact it wasn't. I almost didn't get excited about it, but anyway, I'll get to all that. We'll build all that up, but let's start off first of all, Ryan, with you updating us on our predictions league, because we did do predictions for last week, and I think it was a bit of a title deciding weekend.
It's as you were at the top, basically. Dave's pulled away. He's had a good week. It was a modest week for the rest of us, apart from Kyle, who also had an excellent week. And he is now finally pulled ahead of me in the standings, so I am going to be starting to shop for some anime films in the near future, I think. Still a long way to go. There's still a long way to go, but it's that trend is it's been in the post, that one. So we'll see if I can pull it back. But
you're definitely in relegation form at the moment, as much as Dave's in title winning form.
Yeah,
so.
If I hadn't missed 2 weeks, I might have been able to catch up to Mick.
If you hadn't missed 2 weeks, who knows where you could have been at this moment in time. I don't think you would be where Dave is, but I mean, who knows outside of that.
I mean,
it's our fault you missed it as well.
Yeah,
so.
I mean,
it's a shame.
Dave's broken through the 200-point barrier now, which I haven't been keeping track of these things. I don't know how significant that is, but it's
we'll just pretend it's like getting 100 points in the league.
So yeah, I mean that's all. I've had to actually change the positions round for the first time in quite a while. So that's interesting.
Did you get your son to do it?
I did. I talked him through the first couple, and then he did mix mine and Kyle's. and the only other feedback he has is, "Oh, Dave's quite good at this, isn't he?" So
fair play,
you can't say fairer than that.
It's astute lad.
Yeah. I did double check his maths afterwards, so there's no funny.
I was thinking he might check yours. I mean, there's an
fair.
Exclaimer on the table about irregular boot shooting.
I had to explain that to him as well, which was fun. But yeah, I mean, he's decided he wants to be a data analyst when he's older, so that was his first go at that.
Geez, well, you need to introduce him to our number one watcher.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Yeah. Start him on his apprenticeship now.
That's what he does. But anyway, on to team of the week then. So we kind of, there was a bit of back and forth on this one about whether we should include the cup game. And I think it is actually only fair that we didn't include the cup final game. So there wouldn't have been any Liverpool players in it anyway. Even a Liverpool fan would say so. Yeah. But, there won't be any Newcastle or Liverpool players in the team of the week.
Yeah.
We did go back and forth.
We had a team of the week, including the cup fixtures, and we can go through those as we go through, but I put it to vote, and Dave was the only one who was actually definitive on it. The rest of you went, I don't know, I can't.
I kind of get it, because I think if Liverpool had won that game, I wouldn't have wanted them to be in part. Do you know what I mean? It's just pure bias.
I probably wouldn't have been as keen to do it either if it had been Liverpool.
So I think it's fair, because we're totting it up at the end of the season to get like a team of the season that we're only using Premier League.
But what I would say is without those Newcastle players, it was an absolute struggle, because I really don't think it was a great weekend of football.
It was, to be honest. It was a poor Premier League weekend, and if it had been a dud of a final, I think it would have been a poor weekend overall. But I don't know what it was, but there was some decent games that happened this weekend. But
I think it was there was a lot of lack of quality on show rather than shining moments, and that's where you had the higher scoring games were lack of quality rather than really good play. But anyway, we're gonna go for Mark Flecken in goal, who Brentford won 2-1 against Bournemouth. But actually, when I watched the match of the day afterwards, it was all Bournemouth that game, and Flecken was pulling off some really good saves to keep Brentford in it and able to nick it at the end. And no other keeper really sort of covered themselves in glory. There were a couple of particularly bad keepers as well. So, incidentally, he's right up there for team of the season in terms of caps. So that's another one for him. Right back, we got Jake O'Brien for Everton, who I believe was involved in Everton's goal in their 1-1 draw.
Did Jake O'Brien used to be a Man United player or something?
He did not, no.
Because it's just usually whoever you put it right back. A Man United player, an ex-Man United player.
No, if you want a Man United connection, he didn't get a sniff under Sean Dyche, and now that David Moyes is there, who obviously used to manage United, he started picking him in.
Well, that's tenuous, but I'm sure Man United fans will appreciate it.
Like I said, it's slim pickings this week. We've got Calvin Bassey in there.
Big Shirley.
Yeah, I could not tell you a single thing he's done. I just thought Fulham kept a clean sheet, so it probably means he had a good
played
game.
well. He did. He was one of the higher rated players in the game. So for a defender that didn't get a goal or anything like that, that's pretty decent. So he's been solid all season as well.
Yeah. And then next one we got Matthias de Ligt, who you turned your nose up at, but he was in the way of absolutely everything. Yeah. He was in the way of absolutely everything. He's become a real leader in the back line. I think he had an average start to his United career, in that he wasn't necessarily playing as well as his reputation afforded. He wasn't chucking in howlers or anything like that. He was all right. But he's really grown, and as that back three has got a bit more settled under Amorim, he's really sort of shone. Especially now we've got Martinez and Maguire injured. He's had to really step up as a leader in that back line because we've got young kids, we've got people playing that position there, and he's doing his job well. And like I said, he put in some really important blocks when the game was still tight against Leicester. So that's worth putting in. And then at left back, we've got Ryan Sessegnon, who
changed the game for Fulham.
Yeah.
He come on. I can't remember when he come on, but he come on at 0-0 and changed the game. Scored.
Yeah, and it's a great story for him as well, because obviously he started his career at Fulham. He got his start and he became a mainstay there quite young. A couple of years later, he got his move to Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really kick on because of injuries and different managers, and he's gone back to Fulham on a free because Spurs didn't want him anymore. I think he had a bit of time at Palace as well, and he's making his way back to the player that he was before he went there. So to have a really good sort of statement performance against Spurs was quite nice for him, I think. What I would say in the back line, if we were including Newcastle players, we would have had Dan Burn in there, and we'll talk about Dan Burn later because he's having a good time right now, I would say.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. And then midfield, we've got Bruno Fernandes, who
the midfield kind of picked itself a little bit when you think about it.
It absolutely did. Yeah. We've got Bruno Fernandes, who every game, basically, if he is not involved in scoring a goal, we aren't scoring a goal at the moment. That's the fact of it. The numbers back that up. I think he's about 5 away from 100 United goals in 5 years in a bang average team. So yeah, he put in another good performance. He's really benefited from Ruben's moved him further back, so he's not a number 10 anymore.
Yeah,
he's playing in the two.
I guess he had to try both to see where it fitted him in. Yeah. He's definitely,
but it really deeper. I think it cuts out a lot of the bad parts of his game. Because he's bringing it from the back, he's taking a bit more responsibility. So he's taking it off the centre backs. He's doing interplay with the wing backs with Ugarte. He's not just getting it and trying to ping it over to Rashford or whoever. So I agree with you.
I think he's
playing a lot more.
He's been better, and you've been a better team since he's dropped back into the midfield.
There's been a lot of narrative of, where would United be without Bruno? And yes, all the goals are coming through him, but it is not. He's deciding, right, I'm going to do everything. He's working really well as part of a wider system that is working around him. There's other players that are all doing their jobs that facilitate him getting the goals, I would say.
Yeah.
Next, we've got Morgan Gibbs-White, who is just again having a phenomenal season. He's a proper box-to-box midfielder. If we had him next to Bruno in our midfield, that would be quite nice, I think.
I think bar maybe a couple of teams, and I'm thinking probably Liverpool and City. I think he could get a game for any other team in the Premier League at the moment. If he kept that form up, obviously there's no guarantee he'll always be that consistent. But
he'd get a game for City, absolutely. He'd get a game for City.
I don't think he suits their style of play, though. I don't think Pep would go for a player like him. Yeah. You know what I mean? He would rather have a fancy Dan and have somebody further back, do the work kind of thing. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but there was quite a bit of uproar on Friday when he wasn't included in the initial England squad.
Quite rightly, I think.
Ahead of a couple of names. Cole Palmer's dropped out with injury now, so he's been called up straight away. So I think that's the right call. And then Mikel Merino, who's sort of being played as a striker, but he's a midfielder by trade, so we stuck him in the midfield. He got a goal off a corner. There was literally nothing else that happened in that game. It was awful.
I mean, that game was really bad for Chelsea Arsenal versus Chelsea. That was such a rubbish game. There was no drama. Chelsea were saying they played well at the end of it or something. I was one of the players. We played really well and we just couldn't convert our chances. I'm thinking, I don't know what game you were watching. I think it was Caicedo that said that. I mean, Arsenal were a bit toothless at the moment, but they were the better team, and Chelsea just didn't.
But what Arsenal have is, if they do manage to go ahead, I know they're not scoring a lot of goals, but if they do manage to go ahead, they are the best. Probably apart from Forest, they're the best defensive team. They can sit on a lead quite happily. They're not gonna let that slip, and they're quite happy to let a team like Chelsea huff and puff without doing anything. But for all we had a big discussion last week, and a lot of people in football media have, about how exciting the top 4, top 5 race is. These two were right smack in the middle of it, and neither of them could be asked. So
I know. I guess it was a bit more important, I think, for Chelsea than Arsenal, but it didn't look like that.
Yeah. And then moving forward to the front three, we've got Rhythm is a Dancer, Anthony Elanga, who scored 2 goals for the first time in his Premier League career. Fair play to him.
Yeah.
Even Nuno was surprised by that, but they were classic Elanga and classic Forest goals. He got the ball in a lot of space, just inside the opposition half, and he ran forward, cut inside, and shoot. So that's how Forest score goals. He's having a good season. Other wing, we've got Omar Marmoush, who, in my opinion, is the only reason City got anything out of Brighton. He won the penalty to put him ahead, and then when it was 1-1, City were doing a bit of tap-in sort of on the outside of the box, and Marmoush got fed up and just went, sod it, I'm going to shoot from 30 yards and put it in top corner. City were really poor apart from that, and Brighton
he's one of the only ones, which is weird for a team like Man City, but maybe it's because they've nothing to fight for this year that they just can't be asked, but maybe because he's new, he's still got that fight, but he's the only one that seems to take the game with the scruff of the neck to say, I'm going to try and do something. That's
a sensation I've described multiple times watching United, isn't it? This new guy looks good, and it's just because he's got a bit of hope about him. He's not been ground down by it yet, and obviously City have got a long way to go before that happens. But
he's won nothing. He's won nothing at City. So Pep knows what he's doing, but he's not as jaded. Too late doing it.
He's not as jaded as some of the other lads in that team, definitely. And then Jacob Strand-Larsen got 2 goals against Southampton. Took him really well. I thought he's a decent
really an striker. Important game, because I think it was you that cheekily predicted Wolves would win 1-0.
No, I went Southampton would win 1-0.
Southampton would win 1-0. And actually, I think last time you did that, it actually happened, and I thought, can Wolves be that bad again that they get dragged back into it?
Yeah,
I think
I don't think Southampton winning would have dragged Wolves back into it, because they're 9 points clear now. But what it would have done would have been to take them past Derby. And that's one of the few chances they're going to have to do that remaining in the season. I don't know if they've got Leicester to play next. That would be the only other option, I think.
They're getting divorced, but my brother-in-law officially still at the moment is a Southampton fan, and I wouldn't like to see them take Derby's record, I have to say, but as long as it's just not against us, they'll get any points. So.
Yeah.
Maybe at the end of the season when a couple of teams
on the plus side, it's looking good for Portsmouth staying in the Championship this season. They're a few points clear of the drop now, so we're going to get a South Coast derby next year, which will be fun. The entire sort of city centre goes on lockdown for those things, so we'll see. So yeah, that's our team of the week. Again, if we would have included Newcastle players, Mourinho and Gibbs White would have been out for Joe Linton and Bruno. And I guess we can talk about them more because you want to give it the big one. Because Newcastle have won a trophy.
I think if it was up to me, I would have given all 11 players, because I think
Alan Shearer did that, didn't he? For his official Premier League team of the week.
And I kind of get it, because they collectively put in the performance of the week. Everybody had an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 performance. Actually, Isaac didn't have the best game in terms of
he wasn't
still played well, but it wasn't as but he didn't need to be, because everybody else was having a great game. I think
even with Isaac is obviously he gets that goal early in the second half that gets chalked off really marginally. And rather than let his head drop and get frustrated because he's not been into the game as much, he gets angry, takes it personally, and 2 minutes later goes, right, have this. And that's it's honestly, you can't do anything on that, I don't think.
It's difficult for people, especially teams that have been as successful as you, to kind of understand. It's like, well done, you won the League Cup. Like for those of us that are, like maybe don't understand, like maybe like Kel that don't understand, like there's a tier system to trophies, right? So probably top is the Champions League, right? That's like the Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl or whatever. That's the best team in Europe every year, right? So that's the number one. next down, if you don't include the other European trophies, is the Premier League, because it's the team that's been it's the hardest league in the world, and it's the team that's been the most consistent. You mean I've been following
minor league soccer this whole time? My God, that's garbage.
Well, not Champions League is above Premier League, but obviously they all come through their own leagues, and the Premier League is the strongest. So the league champions are the team that across 38 games are better than anybody else. I do think that's the next step.
I do think depending on who you ask, it differs whether the league or the Champions League would mean more.
I mean, it might even depend on the club and the situation they're in at that time. And like when Liverpool won the league, I think it was actually bigger for them.
I think
than the Champions League, because they'd won it.
I think even this season, if you said to Liverpool fans, you're going to win the Champions League this season, you're going to get through past PSG, and you're going to go all the way and win it, but Arsenal are going to catch you up in the league, I'm not so sure they'd take that deal.
No.
So,
but give it if Liverpool do win a couple more leagues and that'll get out their system, and then the Champions League would become bigger again. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So let's get back to celebrating Newcastle here.
Yeah,
Ryan, absolutely. Since I'm on now, lean a little less the way you're leaning. There you go. You're starting to be out of frame.
I'm not centered on my desk. That's the issue.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, where I was last week, this is genuine, right? So like, I wasn't even getting that excited for the game. Like, well, when we played Jews, I'm like listening to a local hero in the morning and all that sort of stuff. I've got my top on. This one, I was kind of almost like just kind of won it over with. I just didn't think we were going to do it, because Liverpool, they've just got put out of Europe. They're such a good team this year.
Yeah.
But see, within 5 minutes of the game starting, I actually genuinely believed we were going to win it. I don't know what it was. It was just the start of the game. The fact that we just started decent and that we didn't start terrible. I just started, and then every minute that went by, I just started believing more and more and more that we could actually do it this time.
Yeah, I mean, within the first 10 minutes, you could see that Eddie Howe's football was shining through, and it was making life difficult for Liverpool. I think that that was the main thing. But you actually got proved right in our little discussion last week. You said Liverpool going out was going to be better for you than Liverpool coming through, and I thought
it would.
I thought it would piss Liverpool off, and they'd have a point to prove. But in the end, it just absolutely drained them instead. So yeah,
and I think we were just so physical, and so many people had so many good games. But I mean, when Dan Burn scored, I mean, like in my dreams, Dan Burn, like if you'd said to me, who would you want to score the winning goal, like, or the first goal in the cup final, I think most Newcastle fans would have said Big Dan Burn. Don't care if it's beautiful people, just a big stupid header for Big Dan Burn. And it wasn't really like this, but in my mind, in like years to come, when I'm describing it, I'm it's going to be like, and then Big Dan Burn at the back post jumped up, must have been a world record high jump attempt. That's how far up he was.
He didn't even have to jump, really. It just sort of fell on his head, didn't it?
His knees were at the height of Diego Jota's head as he jumped up 16 feet in the air and hit it in like a cruise missile perfectly into the corner. But just the noise.
It was a really well guided.
Jumping about my living room going daft.
It was a really well guided header, but Kieran Trippier just kicked it straight at his head, and no one was anywhere near him to make him even need to jump. But yeah,
well, that's the way it goes. But
I think
Arne Slot said a good thing. He said, "Well, normally we don't put a big person that far back because it's not normal that somebody can jump up and power a header at that accuracy into the bottom corner for that far away." But not everybody's Big Dan Burn.
No, you're quite right.
So,
I thought, thinking about it going into the game, it was a match between the two best midfields in the league, in my opinion. I think the balance that Liverpool have got with Szoboszlai, with Gravenberch, although Curtis Jones didn't play, but obviously they've got McAllister in there, who's a really good player. They've been a really good midfield this season, but equally Newcastle's midfield, when they've got Tonali, Bruno, and Joelinton all on song, is as good as any in the league, I reckon. But
yeah,
and that's where it was won because Joe Linton was Pete Joe Linton, just absolutely everywhere, knocking into everyone, giving nobody a minute space.
It was it wasn't just like the dirty bit of his game. He was grabbing the ball, and instead of like panicking, he was turning around and dragging the ball right up and holding everybody off.
And when when he's
three
in that
of them
mood,
in midfield were just fantastic.
Particularly when Joe Linton's in that mood, you guys can beat anyone. It's what he did to Arsenal in the semi-final. Although he missed the second leg, didn't he?
Yeah. Even Bruno, though, like sometimes Bruno can be guilty of playing for the fouls, and he plays smart, though. He plays smart. He's one of the most fouled players in the league. Sometimes you need a breather, he'll do that. He wasn't really doing that. It was more just like he was like full on for the full 90 minutes. Like, we're not resting here kind of thing. He was just full pelt Bruno. And he was all over them,
But even... like Tino Livramento, I mean, we were saying about Salah a few weeks ago that even when he's not in the game, he can just be stood on the fullback and he's affecting it because the fullback's terrified. Salah didn't have a kick all game. Livramento just wasn't bothered about him at all. And with Trent not there, with the midfield winning the battle, there was no one to get the ball to Salah either.
They kept trying, but they just kept blocking it off. But for me, as much as, Isaac was great. I mean, Murphy was great the way he jumped up for that header and, beat out Andy Robertson for the header at the back post to give Isaac the goal. Barnes had a good game, and I'm not Barnes' biggest fan, but he had a good game, he had chances, he created things, he worked hard, Everybody just had a great game, but for me... But above them all, as much as some people will say Joe Linton was man of the match, and maybe it was, but for me it was Big Dan Burn.
He's the story.
It was his. Absolutely. It was the Dan Burn final. That's what it was for me. Just seeing him, even though he's not the captain, seeing him lifting the cup away above everybody else is just iconic.
I just think if you said, what does an Eddie Howe team look like, or what does Eddie Howe's Newcastle look like? And if you asked Eddie Howe, does your perfect game look like? That is it. There was a lot of quality, but there's grit and there's energy in there. That's the basis of it. And I just, because there were some sort of things going against Newcastle going into it. You had Anthony Gordon injured. You've got Lewis Hall out for the season. If Murphy's not on it, there's not a lot you can do to change it over that side.
A few things going against Liverpool as well. Also, the game going to extra time midweek was bad for them, but also they had lost Trent Alexander and Bradley, so they didn't have a recognised right back. But fair's fair. We both had issues.
And just I wouldn't say Liverpool are necessarily on a wobble, but they have also sort of just slightly lost that aura that they had a couple of months ago.
I think it's
they look like they can be got at.
I
think Salah has quietened down even beyond just sort of being there to stick in some goals. I think he's quietened down.
Just needs the rest.
The rest of the forward line just aren't doing it really, to be honest.
No, I mean, I think Liverpool fans were critical of their forwards just not really doing anything, and that it has been so reliant on Mo Salah, and the fact that, as far as they see, the fact that we cut out Mo Salah meant that they couldn't do anything. But I genuinely think even, Van Dijk was decent, don't get me wrong. I don't think Liverpool were stinking, but we absolutely battered them, really. If you look at for 80 minutes, we were the best team, in the game.
It is equal parts. I don't think Liverpool turned up in the way that they will have wanted to. But equally,
if we compare
Newcastle
it to some of the performances,
Newcastle didn't let them. They didn't give them a chance.
It's like two boxers, two styles, two different boxing styles can make a fight. We get the tactics right, they get them wrong, and that's the way it goes. So
you got an early shot in, and you just stayed on top from there. I don't really know enough boxing. I don't know if that makes any sense.
But I mean, so. It may not be that big to some people, but for us,
no, it's absolutely massive.
I mean, I'm 47. I'm almost 47 years old. I've seen us nearly get there a couple of times and then fail at the final hurdle. We lost the league to your lot in '96. We lost a couple of cup finals to you already. and Liverpool. And it's just, you almost start to think, will this ever happen in my lifetime? And now it has, and even if we never win another one, you can't take this away from us.
No, exactly.
We've won a trophy.
I mean, you say, I think a lot of it's only the League Cup is very performative, and it's for online fans more than what you'd call a proper fan. I grew up in the 90s as a Man United fan. I had a very privileged childhood in that regard. I was used to that from the get-go. I still absolutely loved it when we beat you guys in the League Cup final. I properly loved it when we won the FA Cup final last season, and they made the seasons positive ones despite everything else that had gone wrong in those two seasons.
A trophy's a trophy.
A trophy is a trophy. It is. I would much rather win the League Cup or win the FA Cup than try and scrape fourth place at the end of the season. I don't give a shit about fourth place. I give a shit about winning.
I get how the metrics of like the financial aspects and all that factor into club thinking.
Yeah. But I can't ever imagine
fans don't care about that. Yeah, fans don't care. Fans only care about glory. All that matters is you've got that trophy cabinet. We'll have an open top bus parade and we'll absolutely love it. And maybe before I'm dead, which will hopefully still be a fair few years left, we will win other trophies, and that won't be an isolated incident. But even if we don't, we won that one.
I mean, I think the hierarchy at the top of English football, for all the criticism about PSR is that it makes it a closed shop. I think the hierarchy at the top of English football is being shaken up at the minute. There isn't, in terms of performance on the table, there isn't a big six anymore. There is the top half of the table are all pretty much as good as each other, and they can all,
Which I guess if you're Richard Masters or something like that, that's like master plan achieved, isn't it?
Yeah,
because that's what he wants, because it's then more sellable around the globe.
Yeah. The issue is, for all that is brilliant if Richard Masters is interested in the good of the game, but he's also got those traditional big clubs in his ear, worried because they're missing out, because they just they can't survive. They can't survive a season when they're off it in the way that they could 10 years ago.
We all know PSR, as much as they say it was to stop clubs going bust, was to kind of stop clubs that had been used to getting Europe every year suddenly not having that income anymore, and what financial impact that could have to these really big establishments. So I guess whether they see it sensible is let the other ones build up slower. And somebody like me would argue that that's wrong, but I can kind of see why they're doing it, even if I don't agree.
But I think the reality is, and we've had this debate so many times, there is absolutely upward mobility in the league at the minute, and fine, Newcastle have had a lot of help, which we won't go into today, but the fact is they have been allowed to get themselves in a position where they can win a cup and they can regularly try and challenge to qualify for Europe. And I
mean, again, I would say any if Mike Ashley had actually invested money he could have afforded to invested to grow the club and make it more value, he could have done what's happened in the last 3.5 years. It's not outside there. You don't need to be a state-owned club to spend what we have. But I totally accept what you're saying. We're always going to spend the maximum of what we're allowed now. We're always going to be one of those clubs now, until we get to a certain point anyway. And that's fair. Yeah.
And you did have to take a step back this season because you didn't stay in the Champions League, and because I think you'd probably got to the Champions League a bit quicker than was good for you. That's the wrong way of wording it. But I think expected,
I think, is the best.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. I totally know what you mean.
You weren't a Champions League. You weren't set up for the Champions League the first time around.
It's the squad depth. You need squad depth to be in the Champions League.
The time off, I think, will have helped, but I think it's also it really primes you, because you've got a lot of those initial buys have matured now into really good players. You've got a couple of the younger lads. You can really have a proper go strengthening.
And I think we can have a decent summer in terms of we won't have to sell and we can get some new players in as well.
Yeah.
So
and
see what happens.
And that's how it should be.
It just depends how good you are in the transfer market.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting though. One of the things I was thinking about, like you talk about all the traditional top 4 or top 5 clubs, right, Ryan, that would have bigger squads, right? So, that they can cope with the demands of Europe and still winning games in the Premier League at the weekend to keep them there, right? Yeah. And that was all about the squad depth. Are we getting to a point now where that top 10 needs to have that kind of squad depth?
Yeah, I mean, I think
and just in case they get into Europe.
It's interesting because there is the sheer numbers. Chelsea, especially at the start of the season, they basically had a team for the league, a team for Europe, and a team for the cups. And that's a very extreme. At that point. That's a very extreme example. It's how we all play on FIFA and Football Manager and whatever. It's an extreme example. But most of the rest of the big clubs don't tend to rotate that much. They won't change an entire team from one competition to the next. What I think the difference is with the bigger clubs is that their players are used to that cycle a lot more. They're used to the Wednesday, Saturday, or Thursday, Sunday.
Not training every week. Just keeping performing.
They're used to that. And I think, bringing in another 10 players is not going to give you that. Whereas, obviously, Newcastle didn't really turn up 2 years ago in the League Cup final. They were much better prepared this time. I think it will be similar for you guys in Europe next season, especially if it's only Europa League, where it's slightly less intense. You're going to have a lot of players there that will have gone through
where
that
you
cycle.
need, I think,
Eddie
a bit
Howe,
of depth though is if you get some injuries, right?
Yeah.
2 or 3 injuries, and a bigger club can bring good, not maybe as good, but good players in to fill in the gaps. Us and maybe Villa to an extent this year, who are experiencing the same as us last year in terms of they play in the Champions League, they do well, and then they tend to lose in the league the weekend after. It's almost like, they just don't quite have as good coming in that can replace.
But it's about injuries. It's about the cycle, and obviously Unai Emery's a lot more experienced in that. But the Champions League season last season, that was Eddie Howe's first go at it. So he'll have learned a lot from that. He clearly learned a lot from the last League Cup final and put it into practice this year. So I think that experience is going to set you up a lot better, and you've got the money to be able to sustain that. So, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens as the league goes on.
One last thing I would say is that Eddie Howe is the first English manager to win a trophy in England since Harry Redknapp in 2008. He's the first one to win the League Cup since Steve McLaren in 2004, maybe around that time with Middlesbrough. So obviously that's quite a big deal. I think, he's gone from maybe being a bit iffy as, is this going to be him for the long term? He was obviously talked about at the England job in the summer. I think if he carries on the way he is, he's a shoo-in to take over from Tuchel after the next World Cup.
I mean, maybe, but he's also now the most successful Newcastle manager in, 50 odd years. And now
he's above English manager in 50 odd years.
He's above Bobby Robson. He's above Kevin Keegan. So he's already a legendary status with us now. And I think that will be. I think the only thing that would take him away is England. I can see him, and it would give him a few more years to go. I could see him maybe going to England at some point. Hopefully after winning something else with us. So it's not the only one.
I don't see Tuchel staying beyond the next World Cup unless he manages to win it. But even if he does manage to win it, he might just leave it there. And then I think at the moment it's Eddie Howe's to lose, and obviously things can change a lot in 18 months. But
obviously, even though I'm officially English, I was born in Newcastle, I am obviously a Scotland fan, so I don't like England. So I don't want to see. I just want England to keep making the wrong choices and not go for Eddie, and just keep him so that he can stay at us. Because I'd rather have Eddie than when we do win things and we get better. I'd rather have him to win it with than some random fashionable manager that's coming up in the Portuguese league or the Dutch league or the Italian league or whatever it is, which is the way that the Premier League tends to go. Interestingly enough, Frank Lampard's doing a lot better in his second stint at at management, if you like, at Coventry. So maybe they need to give
quite well
these English managers a chance to.
What will happen with Lampard is Coventry are in the playoff places at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They're quite far behind. I think it's Burnley in third. They're quite far behind there. If they do manage to scrape it through and get into the Premier League, they're going to get absolutely trashed next season. They're not a Premier League club at all, and his reputation is going to take another hit from that, isn't it?
But I think that's where
Kieran McKenna was the hottest thing in the summer, and Ipswich. I don't think he's necessarily had a battering, but Ipswich have got shown up. Rob Edwards last year was exactly the same.
And you say go again in the Championship. That's what these teams need to do. They need to keep these managers once they get relegated, because they were good at that level. You need to let them learn Premier League football, stop just gambling on the fact that you're going to stay up and bringing in a short dice or a Saturday Allardyce equivalent or something.
You look at the converse. Obviously, Leicester got rid of Steve Cooper while they were outside the relegation zone, just because the fans didn't like him for his Forest connections, and he was stylistically a lot different from Maresca. They went for Ruud van Nistelrooy off the back of 4 all-right games in interim charge of Man United. Van Nistelrooy's got nothing about him as a manager. He hasn't got a tactical style that he's going to build towards like a Vincent Kompany or Russell Martin. He's not a firefighter.
Just fire. Well, they were trying.
He was brought in, ostensibly to improve the forward, the play of our forwards, because obviously he was one of the best strikers United have ever had. Couldn't get a tune out of Rashford, couldn't get a tune out of Højlund, couldn't get a tune out of Xerxes while he was assistant. But they've gone for and they're going to probably get rid of him and start again in the Championship. So it's
yeah.
I feel bad slacking off Van Nistelrooy because he's my hero. But
initially anyway, but But I kind of think Maresca's another one that's like he needs the experience. Whether Chelsea will give him that time, I don't know. But this is his first year in the Premier League.
What's happening with Chelsea is exactly the same as what happened with Leicester, in that as his style has got more imprinted on the side, they become a bit more predictable. The fans have got a bit fed up with it, even though performances have sort of kept up. And obviously Leicester were just comfortably the best team in the Championship last season, but Chelsea don't have that luxury. So yeah, I mean, I think they'll probably stick with him next summer because it has been an improvement from what happened last season. But yeah, I don't see him becoming that really top level just yet.
No, but I think he needs time though, and I don't know if he'll get that at Chelsea. Maybe somebody else will pick him up, and he then will get a bit more time. I don't know, but. Well, obviously, the season's got a long way to go. He could still finish in the Champions League and and win the Conference League. So who knows? Anything you want to just say on your lot? I mean, trophyless lot so far this season. You could still win one, but
it was quite a dull, straightforward game, and that's quite nice to say about United after what we've had for a lot of this season. Obviously, Leicester are not.
You're Leicester's bogey team, to be fair, this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Leicester are not a good side. It was good to see Højlund and Garnacho both break their goal droughts. That was good. Højlund had another really good game. He was good against Sociedad, and it didn't quite come off for him. He was good again against Leicester. He's playing more like he was last season, which is good. I think it's helped that Xerxes and Garnacho are really working well behind him. De Ligt, obviously, I talked about during Team of the Week, but Aiden Heaven, the young kid we picked up from Arsenal, had an outstanding game again, and then got stretchered off on 50 minutes. He would have been in my Team of the Week if he hadn't gone off on 50 minutes.
Yeah, it looks a bad one as well.
So it looked a bad one at the time because he was trying to shepherd the ball out, and his leg just got caught, and he went over. And then the commentator said, we're not going to show the footage of this because it's a bit grim. And he gets stretched off, and you just think, right, that's him done for the season. It's just our luck.
And of course, everybody then goes to the internet to find the footage anyway. But,
and it was, it was just one of those where your foot gets stuck and your body keeps going. But what I would say is he walked out of the stadium in a protected boot, so he didn't go to hospital or anything. So he's not had surgery or whatever.
That's good.
He's posted a fairly ambiguous he's posted a fairly ambiguous message on social media where he's just said, "I'm recovering as soon as I can." So I think he'll still be out for a number of weeks, but it doesn't look like a season ender.
I'll tell you, this doesn't happen very often. Praise from my dad this week, and that's very rare.
Do you want to repeat that? We lost you for a minute there.
Sorry, I'm saying that Aidan having get some praise from my dad this week, who's 82, almost 83, and he's so old and cranky that no one's good at football anymore. Like, you know, they're not as good as they were back in his day, and like his mates were better than the current profession. Old man, nothing's ever as good as do. But he was. Who's that lad that plays for Man United? Heaven, his name is, and I was telling about like making puns out his name and stuff like that. And he was, he's a good player, he's a good player. He'll be some player and stuff like that. So it's very rare for my dad to say that.
He's surprised a lot of people. So we picked him up in January from Arsenal's academy for £1.5 million, and he hadn't played a minute for Arsenal. He played against us in a friendly in the summer and actually injured Rasmus Højlund, but he was nowhere near Arsenal's first team. And we picked him up, and we'd obviously signed another youth player from Arsenal in the summer. But we picked him up, and it's just like, it's fine. We've, another lad to stick in the academy. It's all good. We'll see him in a couple of years. And then the reporting around it became, oh no, United have signed him for the first team. And obviously injuries have transpired that he's getting his chance. But he's absolutely looked the part. He's really physical. He's rapid. He's really physical. He doesn't necessarily lose a battle with a striker as much. He might get caught out positionally, but he'll recover and he'll try and win it back. But passing wise, he can get it out to the fullback and get it into midfield. The same sort of things that Lenny Yoro was doing, same sort of things that Lisandro Martinez was doing. So it is really positive that we've picked him up for that cheap, and we can basically sort of build the back three around him and Yoro, who are both really young and can hopefully stay with us for a long time.
Let's hope, because we never hope anyone gets seriously injured, because it's a short career, and we like good players to play football. So let's hope it is a fairly minor thing, and it looked a lot worse than what it is, and he's back fairly soon. I guess the last thing that we've really got today then is, because we don't have predictions, because we're getting into an international week, which I hate, but Ryan enjoys it. So you had a couple of thoughts just on the England international choices.
I mean, I can save them for next week if we record next week.
Maybe that. Yeah, maybe it would be better to talk, because we won't have as much other stuff to talk about, and we won't talk about the final again, and there won't be any penalties. Yeah, so maybe we should leave that. But we do have
House of the Week.
Yeah, Shithouse of the Week, which we don't normally cover Scottish football here, but I live in Scotland, so all my friends are either Rangers or Celtic fans. That's just what happens in Scotland. Everybody's apart. Well, there are other teams, but the vast of the population are Rangers or Celtic fans. So when they play each other, we call it the Old Firm game, and it's always crazy and it's always better, even when there's nothing to play for specifically. So it was the Old Firm game this Sunday before the Cup final, and Rangers unexpectedly beat Celtic 3-2, unexpectedly, because Celtic are running away with the league. Anyway, and one of the, what was it happening? I can't remember who it was, but one of the players goes up and squirts all the Celtic fans.
Vaclav Černý, the Rangers player.
That's it.
He's walking along the bench. I don't know if he's been subbed off or it's at the end of the game, but he gets his water bottle. Celtic fans, I think it was just after they scored the winner, basically. He did it. Celtic fans are obviously laying into him because they're only that far away, and he just sort of turns, squirts his bottle across a few of them and gets them in the face, which is about the tamest sort of giving it back you could get, especially in an old game.
Imagine the drama that's caused up here. That's caused incredible amount of drama.
I saw a headline. He's been investigated by police over it, which is hilarious. I think
it's mad, isn't it, that you can't even squirt water on somebody's.
I guess incoming Kyle with a "Have you got a license for that water?"
Well, actually, that could cause this. Someone could have hydrophobia or something. I don't know. There'll be somebody comes up with a good excuse why. But, I think. Ultimately, of all the things I've seen in an Old Firm game, and I've watched people get coins flung off their heads. I've seen some serious shit in Old Firm games. That was tame. It was just a proper shithouse moment.
I think the official line, if I want to be boring about it, the official line will be inciting the crowd. You know, it doesn't matter, especially in an Old Firm game. It doesn't matter how much the crowd are giving you. If you give it back, it can kick off from there. It doesn't matter what you do to give it back.
They should go and watch some games for the 80s.
No, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.
But it is what it is. Rangers fans,
and I don't think anything did come from it at the time. I don't think there was any massive kickoff from the fans.
Neither side can ever have a laugh at themselves. It's always like when the other side's having a go at them. It's not good natured. It's mean,
really, really personal and really sort of
let's complain about them. And that's the both of them are like that. It's better. It's really better. Yeah,
and like a lot of these rivalries in football, none of it is about football. Let's face it.
Yeah, especially up here. But we won't get any of all that because we do want to talk about football. And that's us finished for this week. So, guys, there's nothing more to say than we are the champions.
Yeah,
finally.
Dave asked for 50 minutes on Newcastle and he damn well got it, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, near enough.
Yeah.
But as I say,
congratulations, Cam. Congratulations.
It's been 70 years.
Yeah. Happy for you guys. But let's leave it another 70 years for the next one, eh?
Let's hope not, but if it happens, so what, we got this one. Thanks for watching, everybody, and if you like what you saw today, please give us a like and a subscribe and leave us any comments if you can, especially if you're a Newcastle fan or if you're a Liverpool fan. What did you think of the game? And we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Cheers.